First topic we're going to touch on is Bitcoin. We are going to talk about Bitcoin because Bitcoin has been going crazy in the last little bit. You can see here, this is the all-time chart. Let's go to the last month. I like seeing the last month chart. So you can see Bitcoin had hit an all-time high at roughly, where was it? I don't remember what day it was. Right there. November 22nd. Bitcoin hit an all-time high of around $99,330. Something like that. So just under 100,000. So Bitcoin right now is, if you go to the all-time chart, Bitcoin is roughly in its fourth main cycle, you could say. So you had that big top in 2013 where it went to $1,000, went down. Then in 2017, it went to roughly 17,000, went down. That was the second. Then in 2021, the last recent cycle went to, looks like 65,000. Depends where you were getting it from. I heard in some places it was like 68,000, 69,000, almost $70,000. And then it went down. And now we are at currently at 96,000, almost 97,000 for one Bitcoin. So the crazy thing about Bitcoin is people continually say that it's dead. And that's one thing that kind of makes me laugh, because it's like, this thing has been around for started in 2009 roughly. So almost 15 years Bitcoin's been around. 15, 16 years. You can see here, I got this website called 99 Bitcoins. 99 Bitcoins. They call it the Bitcoin obituary, and pretty much they're just saying that Bitcoin, all the times that someone has posted an article or something online saying that Bitcoin has died, you can see here, Bitcoin has died 477 times. That's how many times people have talked about it dying online. And I'm pretty sure if you're watching this yourself, you've either heard people say that Bitcoin is dead, or you yourself have said that Bitcoin is dead. But as you can see now, we are currently looking at newer all-time highs. And it's kind of insane. It's kind of crazy. You just got to think about, yes, this asset's been around. It's a fairly new asset class. It's been around for just under 2 decades. But the power behind it, the power and backing behind it is starting to really get insane. Now, every cycle that we have had in the last 15 years, minus this one. This one's kind of different. But every cycle that we've had in the last 15 years, besides the new one, has really been driven by retail investors, meaning normal people like you and me. People who they put some money off and they put it into Bitcoin. But this time is different. I know that's not a good thing to say when you're investing, but this time truly is different. And I'm going to tell you why this time is different. We have 3 main things really that we're going to be looking at that will show that this time is different. So first and foremost, one of the big main drivers of this, Bitcoin ETFs. We're getting a lot of institutional interest in Bitcoin. And it's very interesting to see this play out because we got these ETFs roughly in January of 2024, this year. And there's just been so much money plowed into these. You can look at this is BlackRock's ETF. BlackRock's ETF currently is, I want to say it's the highest holding ETF of the ones that were created in 2024. You can see right here, it has $17 billion in assets under management. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of money in just under 12 months. You see here, Grayscale. Now, Grayscale is a little different because they've been around for a little while and they converted into an ETF. They were previously, I believe, a trust, but they converted when everyone else started to get their Bitcoin ETFs. You can see they have $20 billion in assets under management. So a little bit more than BlackRock, but like I said, they are the biggest holder out of the entities that have gotten into Bitcoin in 2024. You can see here Fidelity, ARK, Cathie Wood's fund. They have almost $3 billion in assets under management. So a lot of money is being thrown around. And that was just the top 3-4 that I've shown you. That's almost $50 billion just between the three or four of them. So you can see there's a lot of institutional demand for this asset and this asset class in general, because we also got Ethereum ETFs, but that's a whole nother story. I'm not going to touch on Ethereum and the rest of the crypto market right now. We're just talking about Bitcoin because Bitcoin is going crazy. So not only do we have institutional investors, we also have companies. Regular businesses and companies are starting to plow money into Bitcoin. And it's really eye-opening when you start to hear the things that they're saying. You can see here, I have an article from You Today, and they're talking about this medical tech company named Semler Scientific. And they really and truly, they're just trying to raise more cash to buy Bitcoin. And I'll show you what their chairman said, Eric Selmer. Their chairman said that they are really praising the wisdom and benefits of implementing a MicroStrategy like debt for Bitcoin strategy. So they are trying to almost mimic what MicroStrategy is doing. And what MicroStrategy is doing is fairly brilliant because it's something, it's kind of been done before, but in this asset class, Bitcoin, it has never been done before. MicroStrategy is the first one to do it. Essentially what they're doing is they are taking out loans, they're taking out debt at low rates, sometimes 1-2%, however low they can get this debt. And they take out this debt and they use that to buy more Bitcoin. Then they buy the Bitcoin, the price goes up, they use that to take collateral, take out more debt, and it's kind of like a flywheel. So they just keep this going, and it's been working out really well for them. They did go through a little bit of turmoil in 2022 when the prices started to drop on Bitcoin. Because you can see here, if we look at that all time, and I bring you to 2021 to 2022, you can see here, after that price went to 65,000, we had a really steep drop because remember, this was around the time that interest rates started to go up. The economy, stock market, everyone was really kind of nervous because we didn't know what was going to happen. Interest rates were going up all around the world. So you can see here, Bitcoin took a really hard plunge to bottom was roughly 15,000. So imagine going from 65,000 to 15,000. They had a margin call price. I don't remember exactly what that price was, but they never reached that price. And that was after Bitcoin had taken, what is that? That's like a 70-80% price drop. They didn't get margin called. So MicroStrategy, they're really doing something huge, and it's paying out. It's paying dividends for them. It's going amazing because you got to think about it. They've been doing this since, I believe, 2021. They've been doing this for a long time. Not a long time, but they've been doing this for a while. And for the price to go from when they were at the lows of 15,000 to now 96,000, just under 97,000, it's starting to really pay off. So you can see companies are really starting to get involved in Bitcoin. They're starting to put their extra reserves, like extra cash they have laying around that's just sitting and just getting very minimal interest rates in bank accounts. They're starting to put little bits of that into Bitcoin. You can see there's companies like MicroStrategy and Semler that are trying to raise cash to buy Bitcoin. So a lot's going on behind the scenes, a lot's going on in public that we can see. But I'll tell you about some entities that are moving behind the scenes. And entities that are moving behind the scenes are actually countries. So now we have countries like Bhutan, and this was a big shock. This was a big shock because no one expected Bhutan to be buying Bitcoin. No one expected the B for Bhutan to stand for Bitcoin, right? So no one saw this coming, but they did announce that in September 2024, they were the 5th largest holder in terms of governments of Bitcoin. That was in September. We're now in November, almost December. They were holding 13,000 Bitcoin when they announced this, and that was equaling to more than $780 million, right? So now we're starting to see nation states start to get into this asset class. Another really big country, United States. The United States has now shown deep interest in starting a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We heard Trump talk about this when he was on his campaign trail. He gave a lot of talks about trying to start a Bitcoin reserve because he felt like it would be something that could possibly pay off the United States national debt. We don't know how well that's going to go. Trump, he's also made some other things that he's hinted at that he wants to do, and we'll touch on that in the next topic. But right now, we'll just stay on Bitcoin. You can see also Cynthia Lummis went to Bitcoin Nashville, but Trump went to Bitcoin Nashville as well, and that's where he gave the initial announcement of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, and that really turned some heads and got some people talking. Also, we had El Salvador. El Salvador, back in 2021, they made Bitcoin legal tender. They've had Bitcoin as their legal tender for 3 years now. So anyone that was buying Bitcoin back when it was legal tender in El Salvador, they're up handsomely. They're up really well right now. Can't complain. So that is just a little bit about the new players that are in Bitcoin right now. They're in the cryptocurrency space. But remember when I said all the way back that we have these new players? Now we need to see, are retail investors going to jump back into Bitcoin en masse? That's really what we don't know yet. We have to wait and see for 2025. But shout out to Timothy Ward. Timothy Ward, he is a YouTuber, content creator I found. Popped up on my recommended page, homepage, I almost said For You page. Homepage, recommended page. He popped up on my homepage, and he's pretty much just talking about, well, he's starting to think that people are right about Bitcoin. And this is an interesting video because you really start to get the perspective of, okay, let me first, I myself, I do invest in Bitcoin and crypto. So I don't really have the perspective of someone that's outside looking in. So that's why this video is so important. That's why I watched this video all the way through. But I'm just going to play you a little clip of what exactly he said. The whole video kind of touches on how he heard about Bitcoin in the early 2010s and he thought it was a scam. He didn't really want to buy it, but now he's looking at the prices going up. He's thinking about it, he's debating it. Really interesting video. I'll just play a little bit of it for you.
Moving on. So back in the day, it was hard to buy Bitcoin. I thought I was just going to be able to get on the internet, put my little debit card information in, get me one of them Bitcoins. No. you had to like go through it. Like it was the wallet, like a crypto wallet. But back then it was a lot harder because it was new. And like, I'd never heard of anything like that. So I'm like, it seemed like a scam to me. I'm not gonna hold you. It seemed like a scam to me because I'd never heard of any of this stuff they were talking about. I was like, I just want to buy one. So I ain't doing that. Fast forward, $99,000, $95,000. I don't know. If I had put that dollar in, I'd be paid right now. You know what I mean? And I know all the.
That's one thing though. Hindsight is really 2020. Hindsight is 2020 because you could always look back and say, oh, if I just put $5 in or $100 in, or if you could afford it, $1,000, however many dollars you want to put in, right? But you always got to remember you can't look at the past. You can only look forward, right? So one thing in investing, past performance doesn't dictate future results. So you can't look backward and say, oh, I wish this, oh, I wish I had put some money in. You got to just put money in and keep moving forward, really and truly, right? We don't know where Bitcoin's going to go. It could go higher, it could go lower. We don't know. It's just a brand new asset class. But yeah, it is. It's always funny hearing people say things like, oh, if I just know. And it's like, I mean, if everyone knew, we would be billionaires. We wouldn't be going to work. We'd be chilling off the coast of Turks and Caicos and drinking Mai Tais, It is what it is.
It's not backed by anything. It's not real. Newsflash, folks, neither is the dollar.
Excuse his wind too. Excuse the wind blowing. I know it's not the greatest sound quality, but I feel like this is an important video to watch because I actually do feel like this is how a good amount of retail investors feel looking at the last year and a half of how Bitcoin and crypto has been going.
Neither is anything you put in the stock market. You know what I mean? This is all I'm saying, folks, is when something new comes along, and it's not even that new now, but when something different comes along, we have all these objections, but honestly, most of the other things we invest in or the things we put stock in, or the things we believe in, don't really have any backing either. You can put money,
and I think that's really, hold on,
in the market.
Let him finish.
Wait till you can invest in a company and it's out of business 6 months from now. You know what I mean? You can.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important point as well. That's something that people don't really realize is there's no such thing as a safe investment. There's no such thing as a sure thing. Any investment has risk. Anything you put your money in that is not a bank account has risk, right? So stock market, like he said, that has risk. Real estate has risk. Me, myself, I live in Canada. So in Canada right now, there's a whole issue going on with the real estate market. I seen a statistic that said real estate is roughly 40% of Canada's GDP. I wish I had some of these things to pull up, but I'm just remembering these things off the top of my head. If you guys want me to post links and all that stuff, like URLs, that's crazy. If you guys want me to post links in the chat when I post these clips up on YouTube, go ahead, tell me in the comments as well. But I remember seeing a stat that roughly 40% of Canada's GDP is just real estate. And you can see how this is an issue because if you really think about it, real estate entitles so many things. You have people in construction. You have you have, what do they call? Assessors, people that assess the value of homes. You have inspectors. You have people who sell furniture. There's a whole economy itself built around real estate. And real estate, to a lot of Canadians, is seen as a retirement plan, a way to strongly build wealth. And it's starting to I don't want to say backfire, but it's starting to look kind of scary for some people because they took out these loans when interest rates were really low. And in Canada, we do our mortgages. It's like every 3 to 5, 6 years when they get renewed, because you have to renew for the new rate. So imagine you took out this loan at 1%. I don't know exactly what the rates were at that time, because I wasn't buying houses, but imagine the rates at that time were 0.5%, 1%, the interest rates. Now the Fed interest rates, they're a bit lower, but when these people at the height, when these people were renewing, the rates were what, 5%, 5.25%. So these are huge jumps, and people are now paying for these new rates. It's starting to hurt people's pockets. And you can imagine, instead of, going and taking your family out for dinner, you're now cutting back because you're paying more for the house. Instead of going on a nice vacation with your family or your significant other, you're now cutting back because you're having to pay more for the house. So you can see how this could start to slowly slow down the economy. And we're starting to see it here in Canada. It's getting kind of scary, but it's what it is, man. That's the name of the game. There is no there is no such thing as a sure thing. There is no safe investment. Every investment carries risk. So, really important what he said. People, the thing about Bitcoin is, if you can stomach volatility, if you can stomach the lows, you'll appreciate the highs. That's what Bitcoin is, really and truly, if you just look at the charts. But yeah, I really like this video. If you want to go watch the whole video, this is the creator right here, Timothy Ward. Shout out to him. Love that video. But pretty much one thing that I've really grasped from Bitcoin was time in the market beats timing the market. And I've known that before, but with Bitcoin, it became real apparent. Because let me just go back to this chart. If you bought Bitcoin, say you bought in 2021, right? When prices were already starting to go up. At the peak, prices were, let's just say, 65,000. But then they went down to in 2022, they went down to 15,000. Now, if you had just sold because you had that short-term mindset, you thought, oh, I'm going to be a crypto millionaire by the end of the year, and you had that short-term mindset, okay, yeah, that drop hurts, but the market went even higher in 2023 going into 2024 and on, right? So when you invest, you have to have a long-term mindset. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to be invested in this for a year, jump in, jump out, and that's it. You shouldn't really be looking at investments like that. You really have to have that long-term mindset, that 3, 5, 7, 10-year outlook. And that, for most investments, that is the way to go, really and truly. And I have a really good example of this. Back in 2020, 2021, there were a lot of athletes that were taking their salaries in Bitcoin. Either their whole salary, portions of their salary, they were taking their salary in Bitcoin. And this is a really good example of this. This player, back in 2020, he was on the Panthers at the time, Russell Okung. He took his salary in Bitcoin. Let me just play this back, and I'll let the fumble tell you about it.
Receive half of his $13 million salary. It was because back in December, he decided that he wanted to receive half of his $13 million salary for 2020 in Bitcoin. This is pretty shocking. This seems like a risk that a lot of athletes would not want to take. Accepting half of your salary in cryptocurrency just seems kind of outrageous. But for Russell, it is paying off in a major way. At the time that he made this happen, Bitcoin was $27,000. Now the price is $61,000, and it has turned his $13 million annual salary into over $21 million. So
you can see that was in 2021. He took half of his salary, okay. Let's look at this. Let's really look at this. 2020, December 2020. Let me find this. December 2020. Let's just say he took it in the beginning. She already said back when he took the salary, it was around 20,000. It ran up to 60,000, 65,000. This is $6 million. So what? His 6 million turned into what? Roughly 18, 19 million dollars. And then in 2022, it went down. You can imagine people were probably saying, "Oh, you're stupid. Why did you take your salary in Bitcoin? That's so dumb. You should have just taken the money." But if he had held, right? Look at all this price appreciation. And now higher, it's worth even more. Zoom out. It's worth even more than when it was at all-time highs. So he's turned his 6 million into what? If he's still holding now, he's turned that into like what, 30 million? Because that's like a 5x, almost a 5x. No, 21,000. So yeah, he's turned that into like 24, 25 million, something like that. See, so you really have to have a long-term mindset. You really have to have a long-term mindset when you're investing. You can't just look at the short term and be like, "Oh, I'm down. This hurts." You have to have a long-term mindset. Not saying don't trim the fat, don't cut the losers, but if you're holding something and you have conviction, hold it long-term and see how it plays out. So time in the market beats timing the market. That's really and truly it. That's how it is. So yeah, like I said, I do invest in Bitcoin. I do invest in cryptocurrency. I do feel like it's a very interesting asset class, and it's a new way that you can kind of circumvent the money printing and the debt bubbles that are rising in countries all over the world. We've touched a lot on the United States, but this is happening a lot in Canada as well. The debt is quickly ballooning, and it seems like no one has any real tangible way to fix this. And at the end of the day, it's just going to hurt the quality of living, and it's going to hurt the future generation's future. It's going to hurt everyone. It really is. And Bitcoin could be a way out of that. Whatever you do with the information I told you, do with it as you please. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not someone that could give you, 100% concrete information, concrete advice on things. I'm just giving you the information, the facts, how I feel or how I think, and you do with it as you wish. But yeah, that was Bitcoin, man. That was Bitcoin. It is going crazy.